Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Marketer of the Day podcast. We are here with Bob Wheeler, the financial expert, motivator, and he is the author of and founder of themoneynerve.com, which you can find at themoneynerve.com. And Bob is here to help us conquer our money shame and get us to avoid making poor financial decisions by teaching us how our emotions can dictate our choices. We'll be talking about how you can have a healthy relationship with money, why you might need financial therapy, and so many other things. Bob, glad to be talking to you.
It's great to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, glad to have you. And this topic of money, this seems like a subject that it's easy to get off track, right? It's easy to just treat life in general too literally, and then you let all this bad, weird stuff come in, and then next thing you know, you're making bad money choices, and it's kind of like this weird, spooky, abstract concept. I've heard some of these money experts before talk about things like visualizing money as a person, or how you need to like respect money, and all of this kind of weird, spooky, iffy stuff. So,
Right.
having said that, what's your opinion on this weird relationship we all have with our emotions and with money?
Well, I mean, I definitely think we all have it, whether we admit it or not. And a lot of people in business like to think everything's very black and white. But, I actually do think having a relationship with the money, I actually go in and talk to my money sometimes. I'm like, get your friends, get them together. Let's all get together and have lots of money. I think what happens is people fear success, or people fear making the wrong choice, and then they either hoard their money or they spend it lavishly so they don't feel guilty that they have it. Or a lot of people use money. I know historically in my family, money buys love. And if you behave well, you get money. And if you behave poorly, it gets withheld. So it's like, it's out there. People get left out of wills. People, and so people are working to make sure they get the money. And just being aware of that so that you don't let that drive you, but that you can actually make conscious choice.
And you mentioned some interesting things here about how sometimes money is used as a weapon, especially in the family situation. And you also dropped in there that there's that fear of success sometimes, right? That we tell ourselves that we want money, but somewhere deep down under all the layers, we self-sabotage and do maybe the wrong things, and we kind of like fight ourselves. And so I'm sure that you've had in some way or another some kind of a firsthand experience with this. So can you maybe be a little personal with us and tell us, like, what have you struggled with and what have you overcome as far as this weird money fight that we all have going in our brains?
Yeah. So, when I first became a CPA, I was making the money and I had the title and life was good, and I couldn't get out of debt to save my life. And people that were in positions technically lower than me, making less money than me, were buying houses, handling their debt. And I'm like, what's going on here? I got the goods. I got the brains. And it was sort of insulting that I had it all together and I didn't have it all together. And so I started looking at my own story and realized that when my parents got divorced, my mom, jokingly or not, said to me, hey, look, you better be really successful so your four siblings and I can have the life we deserve. And I went, I'm not giving you a dime. And so I immediately went into, I'm not going to have any money, so that when I talk to my mom, I can say, I don't have any money. I can't help you out. I'm not lying. And so it was this self-sabotage that I'm not going to have it available so that I don't have to give it to everybody else.
And I think that in one way or another we can relate to some of just that weird stuff that on the outside it seems ridiculous, right? Like
Right,
not
right.
having money so that you will have none to give away, but in one way or another we all have that, and it seems like there's that it comes from our parents, right? Just like all the psychological Sigmund Freud kind of baggage. Like our
Sure.
parents jokingly said this when we were 8 years old, or we saw this with money when we were 6 years old, and then that just carried us away. So how do we begin to unlearn some of that? What are the steps, or what's even the starting point to try to figure all this out?
Yeah, so what I do when I do workshops, when I work with people, it's to first just start to find out the history. Did something happen to you when you were 6 years old? And did you take that on? A lot of us made vows and decisions at 6 and 7 and 8, which were probably not the best decisions, right? Now we're adults. We can go back and say, that was sort of a dumb decision. I was 5. And at least start to realize, oh, there was, I felt really bad, or they told me I was terrible with money, or they told me I was greedy. I was going to be the greedy Michael J. Fox kid. That's like, you always think about money. So I was like, oh, I'm bad. And so you look at that stuff and start to say, wait a minute, that's not true anymore. And then start to be able to set boundaries with yourself and say, I want to advocate for myself. I actually do. I enjoy money. I like it. I like what it does, and I like what I can, and I like the influence that I can use it for. But you have to get your history first, and even stuff like growing up in school. Were you the poor? Were you the kid that was on the free lunch program? Were you the kid that got chauffeured in? Did you have a library at home? Did your parents both work? All those things factor in, that we start to go, wow, I don't have any worth, or I'm better than, or I'm less than, and then we carry that on into adulthood.
Interesting. Well, what I'm hearing a lot from you, like you're mentioning boundaries specifically, and also that it's not just from being poor, right? You might have dealt with this because either like you had too much money or not enough, or your parents had this, or so there's all these. No matter what, we probably have the baggage in some way or another. But what I'm hearing from you is maybe breaking the cycle, right? Breaking the loops
Right.
that we fell into these things at earlier ages, and maybe it served us for a few years back then, but then it's easy enough to just keep on carrying that same exact behavior so many decades later when wait a second, you grew up, you are not at all that same person that you were when you had those first thoughts, but it's easy just day after day to carry that, and then you end up in the same kind of mental situation as you might be physically, right? How
Right.
there's always that fear of getting into the cycle of debt where you can't get out of debt because you keep having to pay the debt, and maybe there's the mental baggage or mental debt that you are found yourself in because that's just how it always has been. And so what I'm getting from what you're saying so far is maybe we need to examine some of that, even though it might be painful, but that
Right.
is the first step into changing some of these actions.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I had a client who every 4 years she'd make $1 million, $2 million, and then she would completely tank. And it was this cycle. And after about the fourth time, we started talking about history and discovered her mom always bailed her out when she went bankrupt. And whenever she wasn't feeling loved by her mom, she would destroy her company so her mom could come in and rescue her. Once we realized that that was sort of going on, she was able to go, yeah, I don't really want to do that anymore. Like I could just go ask my mom, do you love me? Instead of destroying my company. And like that was deep seated.
Yeah. It's like what one simple conversation or maybe a phone call every now and then would have avoided all these ups and downs and all this money wasted. And so since you're speaking about doing new things and talking about the future, sometimes you come across these money guys where they take something boring and they make it so fun, right? They say,
Right.
well, we're going to put money in that and we're going to maximize that and we're going to save for that and we're going to have all these strategic steps, and somehow they take something that's maybe people dread or is boring or makes it fun because you're talking about all these future possibilities. So
Yeah.
how do some of us pick up on that or tap into that? Because sometimes, like I used to have a really bad CPA and now I have a cooler one,
Yeah.
and I look forward to talking with him,
Right.
even though it's kind of about the same stuff because he just has all these cool ideas and like he has fun talking about money and it rubs off on me. So how the heck do we get some of your enthusiasm as well?
Well, I think you sort of hit the nail on the head. It, I like to be. I love what I do. I like to be with clients. I like to advocate for them. I like to explore things with them and find people that enjoy what they do. Like I know a lot of CPAs, and God bless them, but they love to shame their clients and like that's so stupid or why would you do that? And they don't give them a lot of information. When I sit down with my clients, I give them information. Let's talk about a plan. I'm on their team. And like we actually then can strategize because they know I'm actually not just giving lip service. With my clients, it's relational. And if I don't like working with a client, like when I meet people up front, I'll say, we need to meet because maybe I don't like you, maybe you don't like me. And I need to know that up front, because if I don't like you, I'm not going to work and advocate for you. And if you don't like me, you're not going to call me and we're not going to be in relationships. So let's figure that out. And then we can move forward, because I love to advocate and I love to teach people, but I want people that want to be with me, that enjoy it and want to learn. If somebody's just like fix everything for me and just feed me a bottle, I'm out.
That makes total sense. And as you're explaining some of these things again, I'm thinking back to the CPI I didn't like, where she would always do this move. She'd bury your face
Right.
in her hands.
Uh,
If I didn't have some document, or if she said, well, did you do this and this throughout the year? And I said, I have no idea what you're even talking about. And the new guy, it seems like every year he drip feeds me a
right.
few things. He says, well, have this for your business entity, or he says, save money aside for this, or do this with your retirement planning. He does not overwhelm me, and I feel like every year I get a little bit better with the checklist and the things I need to, like the numbers I need to give them and the documents to give them. I feel like it slowly more and more gets dialed in with him, but it's more like he's teaching me. And if he just said go and read some accounting book, I'd say, well, why am I learning that? You're the accountant. But he's
Right.
sneaking in the lessons and making it fun for me, and it just makes me think of that. It could be your way, right? People don't have to dread their jobs. They don't, just because it's numbers and it's money. It could be boring, but let's try to make it fun. Is what I'm hearing from you.
Well, absolutely. And I know a lot of people think money and finance is boring, but when you get to take a vacation to Europe, or you get to go to Tahiti, or you get to buy that sailboat that you always wanted, like that's exciting and fun. So I like look at money as like, oh, these are opportunities to give me all the things that I want to do. If I want to be of service, if I want to travel, if I want nice things, I can have all of those things if I'm, for me, having a joyous relationship with my money.
Right. The dreams, the goal, and it's the same kind of thinking of who likes, say, going to work, right? Who likes going to a 9 to 5 job, or who likes spending 18 hours a day on their business? But if you're doing it in pursuit of a goal and you're thinking ahead towards what will that get me? I can help the lives of my family, or I can pay this off early, then it gets us through that drudgery better. And I know that you, from your bio, I know that you have all these cool hobbies, right? Like there's rock climbing, and there's like, I think I saw stand-up comedy in there.
Right.
And I always like digging into that, because it seems like there's always overlap, right? We learn skills from this thing we do for fun, and it pays off there. So can you maybe unpack for us some of these
Sure.
fun and interesting hobbies? And is there kind of a skill overlap between the work and the fun anywhere?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of stuff that I did initially, I did because it was scary to me. So like I learned to kickbox and spar and all that stuff because I was a little guy and I was sort of afraid if I got in a fight I'd lose. So I learned how to fight really well. And for a while I was probably a little too like, you want to fight? So like things like that, I looked at what scares me, and then I would move towards it so that I could see if it was really as scary as I thought it was. So stand-up comedy, that was sort of a way to do therapy. Climbing mountains was a way to just get out with nature. But one of the things that I learned in all of them, climbing mountains, it's baby steps, doing it one step at a time. You look at the base camp of Mount Everest and go, holy crap, I'm going to climb to that? No, I'm just going to climb 10 feet, and then I'm going to climb 10 more. And then I just learned to negotiate things at small, digestible bites. Stand-up comedy, it's about taking risk. And when you do comedy, some comics will go out and they don't do well, and the audience is like, oh my God, they're terrible. And the comic's like, they didn't laugh at me. Well, it's not the audience's responsibility to laugh at me. It's my responsibility to go out and just be myself and be funny. And then if they enjoy it, great. But I'm not putting it on everybody else. And so for me, it's about self-responsibility and all those things, learning to kickbox, learning to getting up and doing comedy, climbing mountains. It's about self-responsibility and not making it everybody else's fault.
Fantastic. I think that is a good philosophy, and I like what you said about taking the risks and about baby steps, and so many times like I'll be in a situation where I'm trying to figure out a way out of the circumstances I'm in, or I'm working on a project and I can't really crack it, but I go outside to do something physical, I do something outdoors, and some of these brain I don't know, goodies that you're mentioning here kind of come to the surface, right? Like I'll be on a walk or on a run and I'll think, if I push myself just a little bit and I get to that bush or that stop sign, I'll be doing 10% more than I need. And then sometimes it makes me think of like, okay, well, just do 10% more of this and this work, or market more of this, or put aside money, or pay down this a little bit better. It's like the positivity that you force yourself to find in the physical or non-important tasks. Then when you go back to the important tasks, your brain's already like in problem-solving, positive mode. At least for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I totally agree. And it's funny, as you were talking and I was thinking about what I said, I have to admit there is a part that also plays into me doing all these things, all my traveling and running marathons. Um, I grew up with the belief that I'm based on my accomplishments, not just like I'm enough. No, I have to do these things. So part of, as much as I love all those things and I did them, there was a part of me that also did them because they would look good on the resume. Oh, he ran 3 marathons. Oh, he climbed a mountain, right? So there was in the back of my mind, if I do all these things, it would help make me more, oh, he's at least interesting enough to come to the table. So there was a little bit of an emotional push that I needed to do these things to make, because I might not be enough. And I'm glad that I've done them all, but I just want to add that as much as I love them, there was a component that I needed to do them.
And I get that. I relate to that sometimes it's important to maybe like you use the bad, or the I don't know, use the baggage or use the bad stuff in order to
Sure.
get some things done, but also everything in moderation, so that we're not maximizing. You're not running 50 marathons. You're doing enough where it's a nice conversation starter, a way
Yeah.
to stand out, a way to kind of get the result, but not just overloading for the sake of it.
Right, absolutely. It's a balance. And some of those negative things can certainly propel us into great things. Fear is a great motivator, so um, I'm happy with all the choices and I'm able to look and go, oh, yeah, that's sort of where that came from.
So you've had all these breakthroughs, ahas. You've created a website. You've written a book. So can you tell us about some of these things? About what are, or maybe a couple of really amazing things people will get from your book, and how does it stand out? And where's your website?
Yeah, so, the thing about the book and the whole reason I started writing the book was because I realized I wanted to get conversations going about money. A lot of my friends are comics. I'm the CFO at the Comedy Store, and a lot of comics struggle with money, as do a lot of my clients. And one thing I discovered is everybody seems to think that they're alone in their money struggles. They're the only one that didn't figure it out financially. They're the only one that's trying to present in a way that's not really true because they're totally messed up. And so I really wanted to get this conversation started. And so I think the first thing people get when they start to read the book is, oh my God, everybody else is pretty screwed up too. Like, we're all just pretending like we've gotten it figured out. I think we're all pretending to be functioning adults, still operating from childlike memories. And so that's one thing. The other thing is creating a space for people to actually get curious about what their past history has been about. Why did I make these choices? Instead of saying, wow, that's really stupid, it's more about, wow, why did I do that? And do I want to keep doing that? So I think over time, I know people that have read the book. I know people that do the workshops. By the end of the workshop, people will say, wow, I have more money in my bank account, just because they got conscious about spending money and starting to look at the choices they're making, and actually thinking, do I want to go out and spend $300 on dinner, or is that going to go towards my trip to Tahiti? Oh, I think I want my trip to Tahiti. That's going to be more fun. And so it's about bringing awareness and knowing that they're not alone. And there's no shame in not knowing how to do things, learning how to ask for help, and finding people that can advocate for you. If you don't know how to do taxes, find a CPA. If you want to put money away for retirement, you don't know how to do that, find a financial advisor, and find people that love what they do and get them to advocate for you.
Fantastic. I think that is a very powerful message, that we need to have that awareness you're talking about. We need to be making better decisions, and we need to overcome this money fear, because it seems like in our conversation we've touched on maybe 8 or 10 different ways that money has the fear built in. And like the obvious one is, maybe I'll run out of money, or maybe I'll go into debt, or maybe I'll be homeless, or maybe someone will repossess my car. But there's even the fear of, maybe looking at some of the scary bills, or thinking about the scary future, or
Right.
being afraid to ask those stupid questions to the CPA, or making a permanent decision that you can't take back. I mean, our minds can go crazy if we let it, and if we don't unpack and resolve some of these problems that we're having. And the book is called The Money Nerve, and we all should be going to themoneynerve.com. And when we go to that website, what will we find, and what should we be clicking on?
Well, you should be clicking on the. Sorry about that. You should be clicking on the new course to financial freedom, which is an online course that we just developed that's based on the book and based on my experiences. There's a lot of resources on there. How to have conversations with business partners. We're getting ready to add a new podcast with just information on what's investing, what's a stock, why an S corp over a C corp. We're trying to provide a lot of information for those questions of why should I have life insurance, whole life, universal, and trying to bring in all the resources so that you can ask those questions. There's no dumb questions, and we're trying to, like, I ask the dumb questions. I'm willing to go, I don't know, I'm stupid, I'm a hick. Tell me what's the story. And we try to provide all those resources on the website. We encourage people to reach out. We answer questions, but they'll find a lot of resources about practical stuff as well as emotional stuff.
Fantastic. And yeah, as we keep saying here, it all seems to be intertwined, right? If you have those emotional blockages with money, then your decisions are going to be hampered, and the emotions can't just go away. So we need to maybe reframe, repurpose some things. That way it can help us and not be something that we're always struggling with, because we could be struggling for our whole lives. We might pass this stuff down to our kids, and then future generations will be ruined. Why do that? Why put yourself through that when you can find out that you're not alone, when where the information is there, and we can find that at themoneynerve.com, where we can check out that course, we can grab that book. And as we're wrapping up, winding down, Bob, do you think there's anything we missed, or do you feel like leaving us with any parting thoughts here?
I would just say be willing to be uncomfortable, be willing not to know, and be willing to ask stupid questions. Like, just take the risk, like jump into the arena and have fun.